Welcome to Beyond the Walls, a podcast for women ready to break barriers and step boldly into their purpose. I'm Kylie, your coach and guide for overcoming fear, silencing self-doubt, and building a life of courage and connection. Whether faith is your anchor or you're still trying to figure it out, this is a space for growth, authenticity, and transformation. Subscribe now and let's start building the courage to be seen, heard, and unstoppable. This is Beyond the Walls, where your purpose begins. Welcome back to part 3. I'm so excited to get into today's conversation because this is going to be able to be some real hands-on tools, practicals that you can start applying as you start being ready to go back out into these relationships and start engaging in a different way. So if you haven't yet, I want you to pause this episode. I want you to go into the show notes and I want you to download your free guide that is going to help you unlock relationship security. It's going to be a great visual aid for you, a reminder. You can use it as a journal prompt. You can pull it back out when you start to lose confidence to remind you of like, oh yeah, this is what's going on. This is why I'm feeling this way. How can I move past this uncomfortable, awkward, challenging thing that just happened? Because I tell you what, if you haven't realized it already, it's hard to change. It's uncomfortable to grow, but you know that it's worth it. You're here listening with me today because you are somebody who wants to do and is willing to do hard things, to grow, to be authentic in who you are, and to be honest and to have confidence in your life, to have that purpose and joy. Okay, so go get your guide right now and then come back to this episode. Okay, so as a recap of what we've done so far, right? Episode 1, we talked about being able to just start to understand and get curious about what the walls even are in your life. Where did they come from? What were these childhood wounds? Because oftentimes they are from our childhood or from early on, right? Something happened and we made a boundary, whether we realized it or not. And if we aren't willing to go back and understand why we created this boundary, it's really hard to re-choose it or recreate it. And so finding that freedom, finding the healing to release yourself, release these other people, doesn't mean judgment. It doesn't mean that repairing doesn't need to happen. It's not about taking ownership where there wasn't needing to be ownership, but it is being able to start to separate out where you begin and somebody else begins, and making sure that it's truly an accurate depiction of appropriate victimhood or responsibility. So being able to go back and look at those walls. In part 2, we talked about how that kind of shows up today, right? So when you can kind of get curious of like, oh, how did this start? But then what am I doing with it now? Is it really truly accurate of me today? Or do I want to recreate or re-choose this situation? And so today's episode is really like after you've kind of started to get comfortable with that part 1 and the part 2, we get to start interacting and showing up differently in our own lives, in our relationships, how we relate to the world around us and the people in it. And that can be really daunting and scary, but I am with you 100%. And this guide that I told you about is really going to be helpful when things don't go well. And I promise you, unfortunately, it's not always going to go well, but it's not always going to go bad either. And I think even in the redefining, the re-choosing, the recreating, there needs to be an appropriate kind of evaluation over even what have we made it not going well even mean? How do we even know? How do we define how it didn't go well or how it did go well, right? It's important to evaluate that to see, like, is that even a realistic expectation? Is it even manageable? And so if it's not, what do I want it to be now? So I want to introduce some new language to you. If you're new around here, if you've been around for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but if not, it's always good to have a refresher. Several years ago, I kind of created this conversation, this language around these breakdowns and being able to separate them out into 2 different categories. There is our tact and there's our content. Now, obviously, it isn't necessarily a brand new thought. I was not the originator of it, but it became a part of my everyday language and has helped me so much to process conflict and to help resolve conflict and to try to get to the root and address my walls as I'm relating to people in the world, especially those closest to me. And so tact and content, what do I mean? Hopefully those are pretty self-explanatory concepts, but content is like the meat of the message. What am I actually trying to say and to communicate? What are we actually talking about? And tact is how it gets said. Our tone, body language, size, the emphasis that we're putting on, right? Like the energy that is in the conversation and the words. I'm sure you know that words do hurt. Like we can say something in a loving way and in a weaponizing way. We can say it in a way that is going to bring people towards us or push them away. And we could say the same thing, right? That's our content. But how we say it really says a lot about what actually gets interpreted. And I think it's on this level that so much misinterpretation gets consumed, right? On both sides, because it's not only your tact, but it's the other person's tact as well. And it's the content, right? And so to be able to separate those out, and I think that's what the guide does so conveniently and concisely for you, is to kind of start to really separate that out. How do I know if I'm getting caught up in tact or if it's content? You know, early on, I remember when I was really starting to take this on and grow in baby steps and to be more vulnerable and honest, one of the things that I realized is that I was so afraid of the rejection, right? I'll share the specific situation in my marriage. We were having a bump and we were both in the bathroom getting ready. And so I think my husband was in the shower. So there was like a barrier, right? A physical barrier. We weren't looking eye to eye. There was kind of some protection, right? Like some distance. And so I just remember feeling like I wanted what I really was feeling. I was feeling unloved and uncared for. What we were arguing about and fighting about was like what was actually said and what actually wasn't happening. I don't even remember what the conversation words were, but I remember the feeling. And I remember just being, I realized it in the moment that I was like, oh, I'm just going back and forth on tact right now. But really what I'm saying is, I just want to know that you love me and you care about me. And I said those things, but you know what I did? I hijacked it out of that bathroom so fast. I was like, I did not stay around for the answer. I was so afraid. I didn't want to hear the answer, whether it was good news or bad news, right? But that's what a baby step looks like, right? To at least just start to face that fear, because until that answer, like until that question gets answered, it doesn't matter what gets said or not. I am at the root trying to prove, trying to confirm, trying to understand. Am I loved or not? Am I wanted or not? And until that question gets answered, all of these other things, the tact, even more content to the logistics, right? The business of whatever it is that we were trying to actually have a conversation about, it doesn't matter. And so I want you to kind of start to get curious with that concept. Journal about it. Think about it. This isn't a place to start making major judgments and decisions yet. No boundaries have to be made yet. We're just getting curious to see, does that sound accurate for me? Like, how am I facing these conversations? Like, have I really actually said what I really need said? Do I really trust this other person? Do I really believe that they have my best interest in mind? Are they safe? Do they love me? Do I love them? Am I safe to them? And that's the conversation that really needs to be had. But it's so easy to go into tact. That's where our protection comes from. That's where our masks are at. That's where our perfectionism shows up. And all of these confusing, what do you call it when it's the smoke and mirrors, right? So how do we get to that real conversation that needs said? I think that that's something that I've experienced so much through the years. And I think what helps so much when you go through these two other parts, to really start to clean that up, to realize like this is the judgment that I'm coming into the conversation with. This is the gut level feeling that I'm feeling. I'm either proving to myself that I'm loved or I'm unloved. I'm worthy or I'm unworthy, rejected or I'm accepted. And being able to really separate that out and take that back from the world, take that back from like, is that even accurate of what the people around me were trying to say or not? Does it actually say more about them than it does about me? What is it that they're going through? Do they even believe that they have value and worth? What if they're actually trying to answer the same question and you both actually feel really insecure? Neither of you are confident in your security and your love for one another. Because if that's the case, like that's the real conversation to have. But until we're willing to really face that wall, face that vulnerability, face that honesty, we're going to keep misunderstanding each other. We're going to keep misunderstanding and misrepresenting each other. We're going to continue to make judgments against one another that is not honest or accurate for either parts. And here's the hard part too, is that it might actually really be true. What do we do if that other person really doesn't love us? They really don't have our best interest. The place for you to be in is to be honest with yourself and have appropriate attachment to that person to say, boy, are they the judge of my value and my worth and my lovableness? Is it all on them to tell me that I'm accepted or not? And I tell you what, nobody else is in the proper place to tell us that we are worthy or not. The only person, I believe, is God to be able to tell us our value. And he already has proven himself. He has spent our entire lives trying to prove to me, trying to prove to you that you are wanted and loved and worthy. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you don't need to grow. It doesn't mean that he wants for you to continue to mature, right? He's not asking us to stay small and weak and just accept us with apathy, but he wants the very best for you. And the real battle is, am I willing to believe it and accept him at his word or not? Once we have that kind of security, that real, genuine confidence, that is where our real source of power comes in when we start relating back out with other people. Because I've said it before, but as a reminder, other people, like if we only allow the other people in our lives to define if we have value or not, we will constantly be confused. It will constantly be based on our performance, our actions, perfectionism, proving it, not proving it. Like, we are the most unstable people, right? Like, think about your roller coaster of emotions that you've had this last week. Are you stable enough to constantly be your strong platform, aligned a hold of confidence and security? Or have you not been going up and down all by yourself? Are you irritated with the people around you? Take your kids, take your spouse, take your favorite people on the planet. Do they disappoint you at times? Like, are they perfect? Like, it is way too much pressure to put on other people to be the definer of our value. It is also too much pressure to put that on ourselves to look to other people to be that. And the definer of our value means like, boy, if they love me, I'm loved. If they don't love me, I'm not loved. It goes both ways. And there's a great healing phrase that I have started using for myself, and that is that other people's acceptance is just icing on the cake. It feels good to have their acceptance. There is nothing wrong with that. But it is not the sustainer of my acceptability. It is not the be-all and end-all. They do not have that proper authority to tell me whether or not I'm valuable or not. And the world is so good at telling us we're not valuable. We are so good at telling ourselves we're not valuable. Do you want to hold somebody else's value in your hands? Sometimes I think when we flip the script, right, and we put it on somebody else, like, do you want to be responsible for somebody else's confidence? Like, that doesn't feel good, right? Like, it makes sense. It's not appropriate. Like, I don't want to be responsible for you to feel like you are loved. And that is my full-time job, is to make sure that you feel loved at all times, right? We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't want that for ourselves. We wouldn't want the other people in our lives to put that on us. And that's where really looking at those boundaries and those walls, if you're in a relationship with somebody who knowing that that's not appropriate and learning how to relate with them in a different way. It doesn't automatically mean you can't be in a relationship with them anymore. It doesn't mean you can't be a source of encouragement to them anymore. But it does mean that there needs to start to be a separation of what they're responsible for and what you're responsible for. And in this guide that I'm giving you, that is one of the questions that it asks. Like when something doesn't go well and there is a conflict or somebody responds, you're testing this out. I'm going to try to show up honestly, and they don't take it well, or they're angry about it. That first question is, I want you to consider, what if their response actually says something more about them than it does about you? What if it's actually just a reflection of their own insecurity, of their fear of rejection, of their lack of self-awareness, their walls that they have in their life? I hope that it brings you that kind of freedom that it brings me, because when I look at it under that lens, I'm then able to be in a situation of compassion for them. It's not personal. It's not a personal indictment of me and my value, but it puts me in a place of like, wow, they're really having a hard time. They must be feeling really insecure. My job does not become then let me fill them with confidence, but it does mean I'm not responsible for it. But how can I help? How can I not add insult to injury? And the best place to do that is to take back your worth and your value out of the conversation. Having appropriate tact and content that matches what you're actually trying to say. Are you willing to say the real, vulnerable, honest thing and then stick around long enough to hear the answer? And then stick around long enough to repair or accept? I know it's hard. I know you might be feeling really scared and full of yeah buts. Send them to me. I want to hear them. I want to hear your reaction and your responses, your fears, your what ifs, your freakouts, or your victories. What freedom is this bringing to you? What is the release of pressure? And I want you to know that it takes intentionality. This does not happen accidentally, but it also does not have to be life consuming and like super difficult. It's like going to the gym, right? Nobody starts out bench pressing 100 pounds. You got to start with where you're at and being able to face those walls. Go test it out, right? Like in the analogy, go to the gym and see how much can you lift. Maybe you can only lift the bar by itself. And if you can't do that, then you start with the hand weights that are even lighter. And then you add little by little, you expand it out to further people. And as a reminder, I've said this before as well, go practice on your safest people, not your biggest adversaries. Start with the people that you're safest with, that maybe this doesn't even come up, and you just practice like, oh, I'm going to say something really vulnerable. I'm going to say like, I'm just going to start asking you for reassurance. Or I'm going to say like when something goes wrong, instead of having attitude and a reaction and an argument back or start a fight, I'm going to practice saying like, ouch, that really hurt my feelings. I'm fearful of your reaction. I'm about to ask you something and I'm afraid you're going to reject me. Right? And that can be, let's really practical, right? This can be in like, you want to hang out with somebody and spend some quality time. You throw out an idea of, hey, let's get dinner sometime. And somebody says, I don't have time for that. Your immediate feeling might be, if you're not feeling secure with them, is to feel rejected, right? Like, gosh, they don't even care. They don't even want to get together with me. They're not going to why? Why don't they want to make time for me? Why are they too busy, right? We immediately make it about ourselves and make it mean something negative about ourselves. And it's in that space to start to own like, gosh, do I have any reason to believe they don't want to spend time with me? Like, am I just feeling insecure in general and I'm starting to interpret their response inappropriately and I'm making something where there isn't something? I'm creating judgments and assuming the worst of them, or can I assume the best and be secure in me? And if we can't do that, then what is it that we're allowing our thoughts and our minds to meditate on? Are we then going to start proving and looking for proof that they don't care about us? They don't want to spend time with us? Or are you willing to be honest enough to follow up if needed, to say, gosh, I'm missing you. I hope we can get time. Do you want to spend time with me? And ask the real vulnerable conversation and the question of them. Because then it leaves room to just like, what do they need? Maybe they're really stressed out. Maybe they need a friend right now, right? Like, how can you show up for them? But how can they also show up for you? I think one of the things that helps me say no when I need to say no is I love to put my heart behind it as well. Like, I'm so sorry I can't make that. I would love to have dinner with you. Here's my schedule. I don't know when it's going to happen. Is there something else we can do to connect? Because I do want to connect with you. But maybe I don't have time to go get dinner. Maybe I only have a phone call conversation available. Or maybe we set a date soon, or I let you know what's going on in my life. Like, this is what I need. Or maybe, right, like if we start to say what's actually going on, or maybe I would ask and follow up and say, hey, what's going on? Are you doing okay? I'm not available right now. How can we take it to the next level before we start making all these judgments, interpretations based on the tact? Or you could say it, the lack of tact, right? Sometimes we're just really harsh communicators and we need to get better. Maybe we really do just get stuck on it's not what you say, but how you say it. And how do we just say like, gosh, when you speak like that, I feel like you're mad. I feel like my son and my daughter have been getting much better. And I'm trying really hard to grow in that, right? To speak gently, to not just come in guns blazing. I've been fighting a head cold. If you can tell, my voice is a little bit congested. And so I'm having a hard time breathing. So I feel like I keep also breathing out loud and heavy sighs, right? And I was with my son yesterday. We were shopping. We were looking for shoes. And we were trying to put something away. And he had said something. And I just did a big, heavy sigh. And he was like, are you mad at me? And I was like, no, I'm not mad at you. I'm so glad you asked. Like, I'm just breathing. Like, it's just me. What an amazing, a straightforward, get the heart answer question, right? Like, I'm so proud of him for the ability to ask the vulnerable question, because what he could have done is just assumed in the silence. So he could have assumed in that sigh, mom's mad at me, and start making all of these decisions. Don't say that again. Let me start, right? Like, he's going to start making boundaries and setting like walls up for us based on something that wasn't even accurate. But because he just simply asked the question and I simply got to answer it, we simply got to move on and have a great rest of our day. I want that for you. I want that for your relationships, for your family members, for your friendships, for your generations to come. It's not perfect. It's not one and done. I still have to intentionally choose. I still make mistakes. I still want to hide sometimes. And so know that you're not alone. There is nothing wrong, that you're still having a hard time with it and that it doesn't go perfectly every time. And so I hope that those have been really helpful practicals for you to be able to start just looking at and getting curious about it, right? To be careful with your tone, to be careful with your reassurance, to be careful when you start to make assumptions and judgments when things don't happen. Be really curious for yourself, like, ooh, am I reacting right now to the tact or is it to the content? And what would be a loving way to move forward for myself and for this other person? And so as we close out today, I want to remind you to go get your guide if you haven't gotten it. This is a process. It's not perfectionism. Your voice matters. And I promise you, as scary as it is to do something different and to try it out, so much freedom and joy and peace is on the other side waiting for you. And I promise you, and I'm sure you can agree to this, that what you're experiencing right now on this side of things is not peace. It's not security. It doesn't feel good, right? Like, avoiding the resolve does not make where you are right now any more resolved. So are you willing to go and start to be honest and come out of hiding? This is going to impact you, how this can start to change and transform your relationships. And so in our fourth and last episode to conclude this series, come back next week and we're going to cast a great vision of what living honestly can look like. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Walls. If this episode inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend and leave a review. Your support helps more women step into their courage and purpose. Ready for more? Subscribe to the podcast and contact me. You can find me at beyondthewallspodcast.com. Reach out for coaching, more resources, and all the support you could need. Remember, breaking through the walls is just the beginning. Your best life is waiting.